everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor of chatting with Grammy Award winning vocalist, upright bassist Shelby Means. Yay!
Hey, all right. Thank you.
So Shelby,
Howdy, everybody.
we've got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, so I want to dig right in, but we always like to go to the past. How did
Mhm.
you get started, particularly in music and on bass?
I kind of was born into it. I think my mom remembers that my dad would have his friend over in Kentucky where I was born. Before I was born, his friend would come over and play music. They'd play music together. And she said every time they started a song, I would just start moving like crazy inside her belly. And then if when the song stopped, I'd stop moving. So
Hmm.
she was like, I knew then that it's really true that kids in the womb can hear what's going on the outside. So I always loved music, I guess, and I was always singing and humming a tune. And then I started playing the bass when I turned 14. I'd seen a woman performing on the bass at a music contest that I went to in Wyoming. Eventually, my parents moved out to Wyoming to be closer to family, and my dad continued playing guitar and banjo. He tried to learn the fiddle for a moment, but my brother couldn't stand for it. He would cry when he was a little baby when my dad was learning fiddle. So he stopped that and stuck to guitar and banjo and encouraged us to play music as well. So
Well,
yeah.
I can relate to the fiddle part because we had one in our home, and when I picked it up and started trying to play it, for some reason it disappeared, and I don't know where it ever went.
Uh-oh. Somebody, a little gnome or something took care of it.
Absolutely. So, as far as your education with bass, are you
Mhm.
self-trained or did you attend any further studies?
So I took lessons from Erin Youngberg, who was the woman that I saw. She showed me how to hold it first and taught me how to play like like the right hand, you pull the string, and then the left hand, you can stop the noise like that if you're playing on an open string or something. And then I took lessons from Gene LeBay, who lived in Colorado, and I think I took 3 or 4 lessons from him. So
Mhm.
I did get some lessons. I studied. Mark Schatz did a homespun music video, and he was trained classically. So he had a lot of tips on the left hand technique and what fingers to use for which notes and that type of thing. So I'm not self-taught, but a lot of like self-work has gone into learning. And I didn't formally study, but I did do orchestra as a senior in high school. I was friends with the orchestra teacher, and she let me play bass in the orchestra. So that was interesting because I studied voice in school. I'm like choral and vocally trained, but so I could read music, but it was in a different clef. It was in the bass clef. And so that was a challenge. So it was hard for me to sight read, but I could see the intervals pretty easily. So I actually would transcribe my bass into solfege, if you
Okay.
know what that is, do, re,
Yes.
mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. It's just silly, but I would do that with the classical pieces that we studied in orchestra. So I would think of the notes in the do, re, mi scale instead of like on the bass clef.
Very nice, very
Silly
nice. Well,
stuff.
and I know a lot of us are familiar. Again, I've seen you on stage with Molly Tuttle or Della Mae
Mhm.
or Golden Highway, but this year you've got your debut solo album coming out. Tell us about this project.
Yes, I'll say it's been 38 years in the making. I started writing songs when I was in high school, and in college I continued writing, and then I eventually moved to Nashville and just got bit by the bug, the songwriting bug and the creative bug. And but I made money and found a lot of joy joining these touring bands that were going all over the place. And so I got a lot of experience on stage and also in the recording studio with Della Mae. I recorded a Grammy nominated record that Brian Sutton produced. So I had this relationship with Brian through that. And I knew when I started to think about who I would want to play on my debut record that Brian was one of those guys,
Mhm.
that he is one of the greatest guitar players. And he plays, you know, on so many pop country records that we hear. If you hear an acoustic guitar on a pop country record, it could be Brian Sutton, or mandolin or banjo. He's a multi-instrumentalist like that. And then recording the Grammy-winning City of Gold with Molly Tuttle and Jerry Douglas co-producing that, I finally felt like I was in a place where I could be myself in the studio and just put out like any idea of what I should be, or some insecurities that could have shown up in the studio in the past. I felt like I had a handle on those,
Okay.
and I had a great team with Maya DeVitri as my producer, so it just felt right. I also had a lot of money saved up because I'd been on the road with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway. We were touring so much that I couldn't really spend the money as fast as I was making it. So it was nice to know that I could do it on my own without support of a label or something like that.
Very cool. Well, that's a good kind of problem to have, and I think you may have been the first person I've ever heard that said this, but that's just great. Now, among the tracks in here, there's one particularly I relate to perhaps a little bit. Streets of Boulder. Are we referring to Boulder, Colorado? Because that's where I'm from.
Oh, really? That's where it was. The setting is for that one. Cool.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
that was
I
my first single.
nice.
And that one I got Molly and Kyle Tuttle to sing harmony vocal and be the featured artists on.
Hmm.
So it's a very cool Bronwyn Keith Hines is playing the fiddle, and it was just a sweet sort of transition, like a handshake almost, as the Golden Highway and Molly Tuttle switches her in the style that she's presenting a little bit away from bluegrass for her and Kyle and Bronwyn all to play on my first single that came out. It's a cool like passing, you
Now,
know.
there is a lot of, I'm going to say networking, especially the bluegrass community is pretty tight knit, but it seems to be growing quite a bit. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
popularity. I'm seeing lots of festivals across the country. And certainly we would think Nashville, Kentucky kind of stuff, but out west, Wyoming, Colorado,
Hmm.
all over the place. So it's
Yeah,
a very exciting time to be in this music. Now,
it is.
a
Oh,
lot of
I
times
was
we
going to
like to
go back and
talk.
say, gosh, I hope you didn't get dumped on the streets of Boulder.
Oh no, 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 no. Boulder was a wonderful. I was born there and lived there for the first 10 years of my life. And
Great.
I,
Okay,
I
good.
never knew there was any place that didn't have mountains until we moved away. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's this?
Wow. Yeah, flat irons, they're amazing.
Indeed, indeed. So a lot of times with bass players, we like to talk about gear and how they get their sound, but with upright, because of space limitations, I mean, you can't have 20 upright basses usually. So tell us a little bit about how you're getting sound, what you're playing on, and how you're miking your instrument.
Hmm. I do have three upright basses, crazily enough. One of them is out in Wyoming at my parents' house, staged for those Western performances if I can avoid flying with a bass. But
Hmm.
then I have two travel basses. One is a Chadwick folding bass, and that was my main instrument when I was touring with Della Mae. And that bass has been to almost as many countries as I have. Um, Really cool invention. I don't know if y'all have talked about them on your show before, but Charlie Chadwick created um, this way that an upright bass could break down. So it has a back panel that comes off, and you loosen all the strings, the end pin comes out, and the bridge, you take the bridge off, and then the fingerboard also is removable, so it kind of hooks up and over to come
Hmm.
off the neck. And then the neck just slides back and down inside of the bass, and it has a little holder. Everything has a little holder on the inside of the bass. And it fits in a case that weighs 50 pounds. So it was just this genius way of getting a non-overweight item to check for fly dates.
Nice.
So yeah, thanks to Charlie for doing that and figuring that out. And then since then, so many luthiers have taken on a similar idea with the bolt-on neck bass. So now I play a bolt-on, it's a Shin, so it's the same brand as the Chadwick, but I upgraded to get one with a carved top and back. I think the sides, I don't know. I'm not so great at the gear side of things. Probably why I play upright, but
Here we go.
I have D'Addario strings
Nice.
on that I use helicore medium gauge usually. I've experimented with light and heavy a little bit, but medium seems to be where I land with those. And the bolt-off neck is really cool also because the body of the instrument remains one piece. Like with the Chadwick, where the back comes off, we would lose a little bit of tone, a little bit of volume in that it's cut open. And there's so many little plastic pieces inside of it to hold the things in place and screws and things like that. It was the sound is a little bit of the sacrificial lamb in
Gotcha.
that scenario. But I've been really enjoying playing the shin with a bolt off neck. And it's just the sustain on it is really great. And on stage, I would use the Fishman full circle pickup.
Okay.
I really like the tone of that on upright. It's warm and you can get a lot of the attack sound from the right hand of your fingers. And it sounds really genuine. It sounds like an upright instrument. But I would blend it using the Grace Designs Felix pedal that has two inputs. I would blend it with a Beasley pickup. I hope I'm saying that right. Clark Beasley, Biesel, maybe. I can send you the spelling later, but he creates a magnetic pickup
Okay.
that slides onto the end of the fingerboard and you tighten it up. You can adjust each string pickup. And that gave this really nice ability to get loud without sacrificing, too much tone. Like it would make it sound a little more MIDI, a little more intense on the high and mid range,
Hmm.
but was a cool tool to have to that the front of house engineer would usually blend in not 50-50, but sometimes just depending on the song, it would change the tone. So they could change that. So I like that. It's cool, but it does with an upright bass, you're always kind of chasing a buzz.
Yes.
It could be anything buzzing and having that extra thing attached to the end of the fingerboard is just a little bit more that could be buzzing, but it's a very cool sound and cool tone. Um,
Indeed. Well, and
yeah,
I've talked with some audio engineers who've suggested that the best way to pick up sound on upright is actually two external microphones at a 45-degree angle about 3 feet away, but that requires you being static, where
exactly.
you can't move. And so it maybe in a studio you go, okay, we could do that there, but in live performance, hence the Fishman, and there's
Hmm.
a microphone company out of Portland that makes the
Hmm.
Nadine that
Ear
attaches.
trumpet. Yeah,
Yes,
the
ear
ear
trump.
trumpet lab. And I would use that when, like on Molly Tuttle shows, if we would be on our pickups and kind of electrified, but then we would do a portion of the set where we broke it down to the ear trumpet microphone in the front. And then I would switch and have my ear trumpet microphone. I had the Nadine as well.
Nice.
And just to make all the tones feel the same, I would use that for that portion of the show. It's hard because when you have a microphone at that level on the bass, it picks up a lot of noise that's coming in from the crowd or from the band stomping their feet on stage or anything like that. So it's not the front of house engineer's best friend, but what can you do? I
There you
mean,
go.
it's a live show, so
Indeed. So
yeah.
as we look ahead, I'm sure with the new album coming out, you're going to be touring it. Tell us, what
Mhm.
plans do you have for the near future?
Yeah, June 25th, I have a show in Nashville at the Five Spot, which is where it all started for me. So I'm excited to get back there. I've got some special guests playing this set with me. Ron Block on banjo, he played on the record. All the fiddlers that played on my record, Michael Cleveland, Bronwyn Keith Hines, and Billy Contreras will be at the show. And my husband Joel Timmons will be playing. We'll have Cody Kilby sit in on guitar. And Maya DeVitri, my producer, will be there singing harmony vocals.
Nice.
And it's going to be super fun. And then after June 25th, I have about a week in Nashville. I'm going to go up to Romp Festival and perform at the Bluegrass Museum on Friday. And then I'm going to head out west and start the summer out there. My husband and I, we live in South Carolina, but since I grew up in Wyoming, we tend to migrate out west for the summer. it gets really hot and humid out here.
Hmm.
So we're planning to spend most of July and August in Wyoming, Montana, Colorado. And those specific dates are on my website, shelbyleemeans.com.
Excellent, excellent. And also, are you on social media, other places where people might look to see what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I have Instagram and Facebook. I have a TikTok that sometimes I update. I'm not super hip on TikTok these days, but I don't know. Apparently, it's a place where cool kids hang out. Yeah, so Shell Bass is my Instagram at Shell Shelbass.
Mhm.
And Shelby Means well, I think is my Facebook handle. But also those things are all linked on my website. That's kind of the catch-all where you can go to shelbyleemeans.com and find the proper links to get you what information you need, tickets or show schedule or Instagram social links or even YouTube, getting to listen to my record on YouTube, that sort of thing.
Outstanding. Well, Shelby, it's such exciting news. Very excited about the album. I'm
Thank
sure people
you.
need to look for that and listen to some amazing
Yes,
music, and then think
it
about
is.
Boulder when you hear the tune. It's my hometown.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone will be thinking about you for sure.
There we go. There we go. So anyway, you've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Shelby Means.